and welcome to my world. I'm of course Fred Kasdan. As you know, 7 nights a week I stream live over on Twitch playing a variety of video games, and the link to my Twitch channel can be found in the description below, as well as a link to my Stream Element store where you can get t-shirts and mugs. Now, as you also know, every Thursday night I dedicate the streams to Star Trek Online. And this year we've been doing a Glory for the Empire series of streams where I'm using a Cardassian character as a captain in the Klingon Defense Force. Alright, so make it out what you will. And for the most part, I've been avoiding using Klingon vessels for one reason or another, primarily because most of the Klingon vessels are either very ugly by the design or but that's basically it. They're not very appealing to look at while in space. It's kind of why I've kind of shied away from the Klingon Empire for the better part of the Star Trek Online's 10-year run. But it is a thing. So a lot of the vessels I've used in this campaign, you can check here because I've ported all those streams here over to YouTube. We've used all three of the Cardassian vessels that were part of the Gamma Quadrant expansion pack. I don't have the classic Galar vessel, but the other three we've used. We used the Bajorian Interceptor, which was an event ship, which is account wide and which is an account wide vessel, and you can use it on any character and with regardless of the faction. And so forth. And we also use the Alliance Battle Cruiser, again, another ship that's account wide. You can use it on any faction. But then today, something interesting happened. I went on Twitter and I saw this. I'm going to read this verbatim. This is from at Trek Online Game, which is the official Twitter account for Star Trek Online. Breaking: Federation officials have confirmed that in a daring raid, KDF Splinter forces have captured a number of the new Titan-class ships. To avoid further strain on the Khitomer Alliance, Federation officials have decided to send further Titans to any KDF captains who wish. And they followed up with a clarification there that the T6 Titan can be purchased, claimed, and flown by Klingon captains. Rather than fixing this, we're just going to roll with it. Congratulations on your new ship, Klingons. There may be many bugs with this. Consider yourself a beta tester if you do buy one. So, essentially, what this is that a ship that was supposed to be only for the Federation side, yet another ship that's only specifically for the Federation side of things, somebody at Cryptic Studios fucked up royally, and people who are within the Klingon Defense Force are able to purchase that vessel for use, or claim or purchase it outright. Because through the Zen store, and then claim it as well to add it to your roster of ships. And boy, does that open up a real can of worms. Because when you really think about it, that should have already been a thing, particularly when you start looking at what ships are in Star Trek Online, what ships are listed as being faction specific, and then you realize that the Federation and Klingon side players can actually go ahead and claim vessels that they purchased as for the Romulan Republic. Like, Romulan Republic ships can be claimed and flown by either Federation or Klingon captains. Same thing applies to Dominion vessels, which also, by extension, would include the Cardassian vessels as well. There's the the temporal ship bundle, which is account wide, can be used by any faction. And so when you really start digging into it, it's like, ooh, even further, a lot of the lockbox ships can be claimed and used by any faction. Either faction, Klingon or Federation. And so this is a real can of worms here that the developers of Star Trek Online unintentionally opened. And in the long run, it could be a good thing. It could be a very good thing for Star Trek Online. One of the major problems with Star Trek Online was the introduction of the lockbox system and how seemingly the odds of getting a lockbox ship basically as basically makes a lot of folks think like, okay, question, how much money are people spending to try and get these vessels? It's in terms of the gambling issue that is associated with lockboxes, in terms of the percentage and the odds of getting the vessels, and a lot of the same gambling mechanic exists within Star Trek Online, even within the with the R&D packs. There are certain vessels and things that are basically tied to those, and so there is that big stigma there, and a lot of those ships tend to be uh, either uh, single player character only, in terms of you can't claim it on another character even within the same faction, or they are faction specific. And you start thinking and looking at that, it's like, why is that the case? Particularly when there is an obvious in Star Trek universe workaround in terms to explain a number of things. Uh, and so there, so for me, it raises a lot of questions, particularly someone who's been playing Star Trek Online for 10 years. Is like, what can you do? What can Star Trek Online do to actually capitalize on this? And it's simple. Make any ships that's in the Zen, that's particularly if you're paying real money for outright and buying these ships directly. Any ship that's through the Zen store, make them account wide, regardless of faction. Make them account wide, because that's because there, at this point in time there's no point for them. You could put a level lock on them that you can only start using those ships maybe when you hit level 65, which isn't all that hard to do. If you're just going through the base campaign, you can hit level 65 before you're even finished the Romulan campaign. Uh, Before you even get shoot, get to even the equivalent of the Cardassian story arc, if you're doing your duty officer assignments and everything of that nature. It ain't that hard to get to level 65. When you start using ships, you have the access of being able to use ships from the other faction outright. And again, that will pertain to any ships that you're paying real, actual money for, because most ships in the Zen store cost 3,000 Zen, which is the equivalent of being $30 US. All right, so that's definitely a thing in terms of it. So that's one way that this entire thing can be capitalized on. You make them account wide, because you mean to tell me you couldn't, and some people couldn't have a lot of fun with all the things in here, and you can even capitalize this on even further, because what's one thing in Star Trek Online is definitely missing is ship customizations. There are some customization options, and I'm talking more like paints and markings on a ship. And let's keep in mind something that folks have been hoping to see in Star Trek Online for a long time, and that is the Mirror Universe being a faction in and of its own, which basically will repurpose every single Federation ship into another, into an alternate evil version. Because so you have the Mirror Universe vessels, and this is where you can actually justify the Klingon Empire getting their hands on Federation ships and having Klingon captains using them. Say that they're Mirror Universe vessels. They will have Mirror Universe markings and hull markings and things of that nature on it, or even you could say the hull materials would be different. You can have the hull materials that are specifically for the Klingon Empire. You can that the Federation vessels will have those skin markings, and vice versa. Klingon ships will have the material looking more like Federation ships. So you can definitely mix and match and things of that nature. But the fact that it took this major fuck up for this thing, for me to actually start thinking along these lines, to really can make a strong consideration as to how they can take advantage of this, and people would actually pay for it. Because think about this, think about how many I have characters under all of the major factions. I have a Federation 2409 captain, I have an Agents of Yesterday, a Discovery captain, I have a Romulan captain, I have a Klingon Empire captain. In some cases I have multiple captains under specific factions, from specific star points. You think about those players that have been strictly Klingon Defense Force captains going all the way back to when it was just a PvP faction, going back 10 years. All right, and and then look at the fact that there are people that have been strictly Federation captains, and then you start realizing, ooh, they can actually cash in on this by making these ships account wide, particularly those that are payable, that you're paid for. And you know, Stowe is definitely going to put more. So this would make even more an opportunity for people who want to, chase lockbox ships as well, because you make those account wide, and to be used on any character, any faction. Guess what you get out of that? You're going to get more people chasing after those vessels at the same time, because now they're not just specific to being used by one specific faction, which has been the case in some regards. The things that's been in those lockboxes, that they have been specifically behind one faction. Not always, but I think there's been only two that come to mind, and I could. No, the actually, yeah. The what was it? The JJ Trek Constitution class vessel was a lockbox vessel, and that was obviously only for Federation use. So the Klingon Empire really didn't even get an opportunity on the ship for that there. So there's ways there. So here's hoping that somebody at Cryptic Studios has the mindset to realize, ooh, we can actually cash in on this if we actually open things up a bit more, and the role play aspects definitely increase regardless outright. Anyway, so consider this be more of a bonus rant, because we already did one earlier today regarding my opinions on the controls between Mass Effect on the PC versus console. So consider this a bonus commentary for this week as well. So we'll catch you over on my Twitch channel again 7 nights a week. That link's in the description below. Tie your friendship bracelet, stay safe, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.